Saga Ruby Around the World, Blog 3. When the going gets rough, the tough get going. While leaving Puerto Madryn in the Argentine Patagonia, we braced ourselves for many days at sea in the South Atlantic. There was a slight possibility of a stop-off at Port Stanley in the Falkland Islands, if we were lucky. And we were. It had become much colder, with small icebergs sighted, but a slight lift in the inclement weather conditions made it possible for Saga Ruby to anchor off Port Stanley. For just a few hours, and with some difficulty, small boats were able to fetch the more adventurous amongst us to take us back onto the island for the ride of a lifetime. Land Rovers belonging to the islanders, who number a mere 2,840, bounced us across a moon-like terrain for more than 30 minutes, until we finally reached the Sparrow Cove penguin colony. I dreamt of seeing penguins in their natural habitat all my life, and here I was, up close and personal to hundreds of them. They included the gentoo, the jackass, the macaroni, the king, and the rockhopper penguins. It was magic. The Falkland Isles, the weather there is similar to the Hebrides or the Shetland Islands, but with longer and more severe winters, making the islands notoriously difficult to reach, and very few visitors make it. Sadly, the rough weather closed in, cutting our visit short. We left the Falkland Islands to set sail for the long sea journey across to Cape Town. But now there was another challenge ahead. Would we be able to get anywhere close to the far-flung volcanic island of Tristan da Cunha? Now, Tristan da Cunha is the most remote inhabited archipelago in the world, and part of the British overseas territory of St. Helena. Fishing boats service the island, but only 8 or 9 times a year. There's no airport, and the nearest land, that's South Africa, is 2,816 kilometres away. In 1961, a volcanic eruption forced the evacuation of the entire population via South Africa to the UK. But most families returned in 1963. Rough seas prevented landing, but although conditions were precarious, we finally dropped anchor some way off Tristan da Cunha. For several hours we were able to view the one small settlement on the island through binoculars from the decks. But whilst we were anchored, many of the brave islanders, who total only 264, ferried themselves out in small ocean-going craft to bring not only themselves but their local handicrafts aboard for us to purchase. I bought a toy penguin, of course. The only policeman on the island, trained in the UK, is known locally as the Rockhopper Copper, nicknamed after the penguins, and he came aboard and gave us a fascinating insight into life on the island. It's a really tight, self-supporting, happy community, and with no crime to speak of. The islanders make a living from lobster fishing. After 4 more days at sea through the early morning mist, we finally saw Table Mountain, the iconic, spectacular South African landmark. Its near vertical cliffs and flat top summit is over 3,300 feet high, with Devil's Peak and Lion's Head on either side. Together they form a dramatic mountainous backdrop that encloses the central area of Cape Town, the so-called City Bowl. Cape Town is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and is Africa's favourite tourist destination. So much to do: restaurants, museums, theatre, sightseeing, shopping, or further afield, the vineyards, botanical gardens, and nature reserves. And more penguins to see at Boulders Beach. Sad farewells followed as we guest speakers left the ship to go our various ways home, leaving the happy passengers to continue on their epic 2013 Saga Ruby cruise around the world. Lucky things.